This episode is brought to you by Voco Hotels by IHG, where you should prepare to be charmed. From Chicago to Myrtle Beach to Saranac Lake, each Voco in the U.S. has its own local flavor and unique detail. Our hosts welcome you with little extras, and you'll find rooms for catching up on me time and full-service bars and restaurants that are perfect for us time. Come on in and live the Voco life and book your next stay at vocohotels.com. VOCO hotels.com.
Welcome to episode 116 of the Inside Job Boards and Recruitment Marketplaces podcast. Peter, I almost forgot the name of our show. You'd think after 116 episodes, I'd have that straight, right?
No, I don't think you'll have anything straight ever.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I do remember my name. I am Stephen Rothberg from College Recruiter. I'm the founder and also the co-host of the podcast for those who care about job boards and who doesn't. Good to see you, Peter.
Good to see you. Who doesn't? Oh, man, we're not going to go there. But if they don't care about job boards, they're probably not watching or listening to this podcast. So I'm Peter Zollman with the AIM Group. We provide business intelligence, competitive intelligence, conferences, and consulting for job boards and recruitment marketplaces all around the world. And we've been doing it for, oh my gosh, more than 25 years, coming up on 30. That's amazing. I must have been 8 when I started. No, not really. But in any case, we're going to talk about conferences today, but not the dry list of conferences and so forth and so on. How conferences fit into your M&A strategy, your partnership strategy, and that sort of thing. And I'm going to start with 2 quick anecdotes. One is I used to go to a conference called ICMA. And I had been going for a couple of years, and it was very cliquish and very tight-knit group, to use a politer phrase. And I was talking to the executive director of the organization one day, and she said, well, you know how this really got rolling? I said, no. She said, this was a shopping mall. There was one guy, I won't mention his name, who was doing a roll-up among all of the companies in the classified advertising space. So he would go there every year shopping. And everybody on the other side was there seeing if he was going to buy. And so it was a shopping mall for him. And he bought 20 or 30 companies over the years. And then he stopped and eventually sold his company. But it was his personal corporate shopping mall for companies in the field. And I thought that was very telling.
So the people who were there speaking and talking about what their companies did and their products and whatever, in a way, it was a pitch fest for an audience of one.
Yes and no. I mean, there was some meaningful conference stuff going on as well.
But his motives.
But behind the scenes, it was absolutely his shopping mall. I don't know if he went to the sessions and listened. He probably set up appointments with the people he wanted to talk to, and the people he didn't want to talk to would, walk over to him and bug him to set up appointments or something like that. So, as you know, I was at HR Tech in Vegas. Ooh, hate Vegas. But I won't tell you the anecdote that I'm not allowed to tell on a podcast. But and it has nothing to do with that. Don't go there. Anyway,
as long as you got your shot of penicillin, yeah, I'm sure you'll be fine.
Thank you, but no. Regardless, so there was a session at HR Tech called "Buying the Future: How Top HR Tech Platforms Drive Growth Through M&A." And George LaRocque was the moderator. And there were folks there from Cornerstone On Demand, very heavily acquisitive, Bamboo HR, very heavily acquisitive, and SAP SuccessFactors, which is kind of a large acquisition in the past couple of months. And they were talking about how they guide their M&A process, what they look for in an M&A process, and so forth. So you can not only go to a conference to look for partnerships, look for M&A, but you can go and learn about it from the big boys, or in one case, the big girl, Sarah from SAP SuccessFactors.
Sarah White.
Yes, Sarah White was there. And she's back in good health. And I finally got to meet her. We had traded emails and we followed her on LinkedIn, but I finally got to meet her in person. And we know people who've been trying to buy or sell in the industry. Certainly Peter Weddle was not at all secretive about it, posting on LinkedIn that he was going to sell TA Tech. And then he didn't. But we know lots of people who buy and sell, and conferences are a great place to go and learn about that and look around, poke around. If you're selling, if you're buying, good thing to get out of conferences. Now you're going to a conference any day now.
Yeah. In middle of October is the RecFest conference in Nashville. Started in the UK and basically suburban London. Kind of a carnival kind of an atmosphere. Outdoor tents. In the UK, they have a Ferris wheel.
You're going to fit right in. You're going to be the clown, I presume.
Or the bearded lady, one or the other. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. I'll have to grow a beard, but I think I've got the rest of it covered.
Well, it's kind of thin on top.
So RecFest, the reputation, I've never been. It'll be my first time. I'm looking forward to it, and it has kind of a party kind of an atmosphere, and that's something else that I think people should think about too. Is that the conferences have very different flavors, like
different vibes.
One conference might be very buttoned down, very kind of corporate, formal. And I think from what I've heard, RecFest is kind of the opposite extreme. Anytime you're like outside walking on grass and going into tents, it's not going to feel as formal as if you're in the ballroom of like a Hilton hotel. Some conferences are very agenda driven, 75-minute sessions. Everything is about going to the sessions. And some of them are like the RecBuzz ones. Yes, there are definitely sessions, but there's also ample opportunity for networking. And it must be really hard to create a conference that works well for most people. I wouldn't even try to say works great for everybody, because I don't think it can ever work great for everybody. But you kind of have to know your audience. And I'm saying this also to the listeners, just sort of piggybacking on what you were saying, is that if your goal is to find a buyer for your business, then there are certain conferences that are going to lend themselves better to that than others. If your goal is to buy a business, again, same sort of thing applies, partnerships, et cetera. I mean, I can't go to any one of these conferences without walking away with like at least a few really great partnerships.
Hey, this is Brent Skinner, host of Small Talk Window here at the Work Defined Podcasting Network. Have you ever wanted a short podcast to listen to during a coffee break of your workday? You've come to the right place. My guests dispense with the small talk as quickly as possible and settle into a meaningful conversation around the world of work.
Yeah, we should make a list of some of the conferences we believe in, by the way. I can't help but mention RecBuzz, the international, global, marvelous conference. And you said you can't make it work for everybody, but judging from the scores that we get, Katya really does make it work for everybody. We get 9s and 10s consistently. Occasional 8s, because I know when you come, you have to throw in a nasty just to be in there.
So untrue.
There are, SAP has a conference mainly for their clients or their prospects.
Mm-hmm.
There are the Louise Grant and Louise Triance at Job Boards Connect in London. Excellent conference. There will be in March in the US and in October, I think, in the UK, Unleash. Again, another one that started in the UK and moved across the pond. In a couple of weeks, I'm going to be going to the LinkedIn Connect conference. That's a LinkedIn specific conference. And, come spring, there are still more conferences. So the spring and fall are typically the conference seasons. You could go to one every week if you want to. I was talking to Debbie McGrath of HR.com last night, and Mark Pfeffer, our new writer. We had a marvelous time, by the way. Thank you very much for recommending Mark. And, you could go to one every week, but you have to pick and choose based on your objective. If your objective is to see a lot of vendors, HR Tech, there's SHRM, although there are very few vendors there in the job board recruitment market space or even in the adjacent spaces. There's HR Tech. If you want to go to where a lot of recruiters are, there's ERE, there is RecFest, there's Unleash, and on and on and on. Good things,
Yeah. Another one that you haven't met, you mentioned SHRM. I think you're referring to the SHRM National Conference, which I think
Yeah.
is usually like late June. And they also have the SHRM Talent Management.
Yeah.
I've been to both. We've exhibited at both. I think for the people in the job board space, the SHRM Talent Management is better. The
Yeah.
the SHRM National Conference, there's a lot of stuff there on, payroll benefits. It's kind of more the
General HR.
general HR. Yes, that's a really good way of putting it. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Benefit, payroll,
But yeah,
compliance, legal, onboarding, offboarding, RPOs, BPOs, HPOs. Is there an H? Oh, HBO is the TV thing, right? Anyway, but the other thing about conferences, if you are organized enough and you plan well enough, preparing in advance really makes a difference. Mark Pfeffer had probably 15 appointments set up for 2.5 days at HR Tech. I, on the other hand, being me, had 2, and I did kind of catch as catch can. And that can work. I like to literally walk around and see every single booth because in the startup alley, or they call them startup pavilion, I guess, and in the nooks and crannies where you never would have expected to find something, I found a really interesting job board about military spouses. And it's also a business process outsourcing company. So they do both job board and military spouses. Fascinating, tiny, but very meaningful niche or niche. Well, if you're listening in the UK, it's a niche. If you're listening in the States, it's a niche. Either way, and I never would have seen, heard, found anything out about them if I hadn't gone walking literally past every booth. I like to do that. I know it's in many ways wasteful and all that stuff, but I do that and bring home little stuffed animals for my grandkids.
yeah.
In any case, planning, figuring out which conference is going to be right for you. If you're going for M&A, you got to kind of go to the ones where the C-level executives and the major M&A strategy folks are going to be. And pardon me for shilling, but RecBuzz is one of those. RecFest, probably not. I
Right.
don't know. I haven't been. Certainly not Unleash. Different vibes for different conferences. And if you want to go for a recruiter's party, nothing wrong with that. You're going to let me know how it was. You go to RecFest
Mhm.
or possibly Unleash. I think the party atmosphere is higher at RecFest than at Unleash. I haven't been to RecFest. I have been to Unleash. RecBuzz is definitely more content oriented, network oriented, and C-level executive oriented. Louise Grant and Louise Triance, their conference for Job Board Connect, I haven't been in a few years, but it's great. I think it's a different level of people in the industry. Great conference. I am very disappointed that I don't cross the pond to go anymore. But with Kate Kavanaugh, our COO in London or the London area, it doesn't make much sense for me to cross the pond for that one.
Yeah.
And so conferences. What else you want to say?
The only other thing is more of an ask. So if you're watching on LinkedIn or YouTube or listening on Spotify, Pandora, Apple, Google Play, whatever, drop a comment about the conferences that you've been to what did we cover that you agree with? What did we cover that you disagree with? What did we miss? Even if it's just like a one word, name of the conference. Let's put them in, and rising tide lifts all ships. We can all learn from each other.
I can't imagine that we missed anything or got anything wrong, but if we did, they'll tell us.
Absolutely.
On that note, sir, we've run long. I can't believe it. Thank you very much.
Good to see you again.
Now off to your M&A.
Cheers, my friend.
You know the words that dominate our news cycle.
Private equity keeps inventing
generative artificial
gains tax
intelligence
on home.
America's chip war by market volatility. Bets on Fed rate cuts.
But do you truly understand how they impact your world and your wallet? In a world that skims the what, understand the why. Because context changes everything. Subscribe to learn more at Bloomberg.com, the global benchmark for business news.
Every minute your finance team spends wrestling with data is a minute lost. Insight Software's AI-powered insights instantly move you from complexity to clarity. Automated analysis, real-time reporting, strategic recommendations, all at your fingertips. Transform how your finance team works and watch your business grow. Stop wasting time. Start making smarter decisions. Learn more at insightsoftware.com/AI.